Where to find Marvel at the Disney and Universal theme parks. This is Go Inform Podcast, episode 68. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we are talking Marvel superheroes and the attractions and the lands in the U.S. theme parks where you can find Marvel. I think this is a really fun topic. A lot of people are big Marvel fans, and I'm really happy to bring this to you. This is a conversation that I had with my friend, the Disney hack, Joey McGurr. As you may know, we do almost every week chat live on Facebook, and we pick a different topic every time. And this time we talked about Marvel. My name is Maven. I'm the hostess on the show, and I am the founder of GoInform.net. And you can find out a lot more information about theme parks over on the website, including the show notes for this episode. So you're going to hear us geeking out about Marvel and about theme parks, and we probably will go down a few rabbit holes. So if you want to get some clarification or just see a video of what we're looking at when we're talking, you can get all of that over at the show notes at goinform.net/68. You will notice that we spent a lot of time talking about the new Avengers campus that's at Disneyland. This was just about to open when we had this chat. So you're going to hear a little speculation, but I think we were mostly right. So that is a very exciting development in the Disney theme parks. And if you're a Marvel fan, you really will want to check out the information about Avengers Campus. But you can actually see Marvel and experience Marvel attractions and meet characters and all those things also at Universal Orlando in the Islands of Adventure theme park. So we're going to you'll hear us talking about, we kind of started out jumping into the history of this, how Marvel ended up in both Universal and Disney. It's kind of an interesting story. And in fact, soon in Orlando, you will be able to experience Marvel both at Universal and in the Epcot theme park at Disney World. So we talk about all this stuff here in this chat, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, if you want to hear us talk live about random Disney-oriented topics, you can look for us on Facebook. My Facebook is GoInformNet, and Joey's is The Disney Hack, almost every Tuesday morning at 11 Pacific time. So without further ado, here is me and Joey geeking out about Marvel in the theme parks.
I mean, we've talked about COVID. We both did like the Marvel marathon through all the movies. You know, it's just amazing to me how this whole thing came about. You know, as a kid, I grew up reading Marvel comics. You obviously know lots about Marvel and all the characters, you know, we grew up watching the Incredible Hulk television show. We're on the 50th version of the Spider-Man movie iterations, you know, so there's, you know, the cartoons, there's all this stuff, right, that we grew up with. And when you know, we've both read Bob Iger's book, you know, when he went and bought Marvel, that was such a huge investment, and the board was not really for it. They were like, this is not really our brand. This is not really a good investment. And it turned out to be a phenomenal investment for the company.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Universal and Comcast had already beat Disney to the punch by about 10 years by building Marvel licensed products in theme parks. And I want to talk about that too, Sue, but never having been to Universal Orlando, I definitely want you to lead that. I got a lot of questions for you. I did my homework. I looked up, you know, the superhero Island or superhero. What is it called?
Yeah, I think it's called Marvel Superhero Island. It's at the Islands of Adventure Park at Universal Orlando.
Yeah, and so Disney, of course, is bringing some superhero theme parks attractions to their park. So there's very, very little Marvel in Disney theme parks right now. I was really surprised when we brought the topic up. I thought, oh my goodness, there's going to be so much to talk about. But there is a lot coming. But what actually is what exists right now is surprisingly very little.
Yeah. Well, I think that. Do you want to kind of talk about how Marvel got there and like why it's like that? So I think the reason is that Disney only recently bought Marvel, and they already were putting so much money into the Star Wars franchise. I think, building these Star Wars lands, and for whatever reason, they thought they needed something based on Avatar. So they had some other property.
It wasn't even a Disney property, right? It was a Fox property. And that was long before the Rupert Murdoch, purchase deal. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So they already had these big IPs that they were trying to integrate in. And the other thing is that and even now that Disney owns Marvel, there is a pre-existing deal with Universal that my understanding is that the way it works is that on the east of the Mississippi, that Universal has the rights to Marvel.
Certain Marvel properties, not all Marvel properties, right? Because
exactly,
they are bringing a Guardians of the Galaxy ride to Florida, but things like Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, they had locked in these properties, right? These IPs. What I found so fascinating about that, I remember Rich and I looking up the legalese of the contract, even back in 2018, and it's so interesting that the contract is super binding, and that the only way that it can break is if Universal basically says we're just going to give it back to you, or if they stop operating as a theme park. So they have to do everything they can to operate as a theme park. And they're making, people want to go to Islands of Adventure. They want to go ride the Hulk ride, the Spider-Man ride. They want to do this stuff. So they're making money. They're finding ways to make money out of this stuff. And I just find it fascinating because it's so ironclad that Disney's basically not even, their legal team is not even advising to even try. Just wait, maybe the culture will shift and eventually those things won't be as money making as they were, and Universal will come to you and say, hey, we want to sell these rights back to you just to make a buck. But it is really interesting that all happened.
Well, the thing is that, so let me tell you a little bit about what's at Universal and why I think Disney is, even though they like to bring it in their own parks, like they're still making money, because what's at Universal is a really good roller coaster that's called Incredible Hulk. A really cool, like one of the standard type of Universal rides that's got screens and 3D and water sprays at you always.
All the Gringotts, right? It's one of those Gringot type. Right.
It's kind of a predecessor to that. So the Spider-Man ride there is actually one of the best attractions at Universal. And then there's like another thing that's Doctor Doom's Fearfall, which is basically just like what you see at the fair. It's like a drop ride. Yeah. And then it's in this land that is comic book themed. So all of this was done before the Marvel movies, really. And so the theming there, they've brought some of it up to date, but it's really more based on the comic books, which is kind of fun. I think the art direction in the land, the music sounds like you're in a video game. It's a little overwhelming, honestly.
Well, it was before the MCU, right? So they just kind of were making it their own. They got to make their own thing out of it, right?
They did. You're right. I think there might have been. I'm pretty sure they had made like some of those original Spider-Man movies from like the 90s or whatever at that point, because like the Spider-Man movie is based on you go into the newsroom where he worked and then you go on this adventure. The Hulk coaster is basically more about the comic book that you don't see any, there's not like scenes from any of the MCU movies in these rides. And then they do have characters that come around. And again, they're more with comic book looking costumes. They aren't lookalikes to, you know, Iron Man from the movie or whatever. They have a parade where they all go on these cool little motorbikes and drive around. But so anyway, it's a different vibe.
It's like my little action figures coming to life.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah. So, but the thing is, the reason I think this benefits Disney is that they sell so much Marvel merch in their stores.
And Disney owns Marvel, right?
And Disney's getting a piece of it. And all it's doing is just making people excited about Marvel. So, I
think they also pay a licensing fee to Marvel annually or ongoing. And so Disney's making that money too.
Yeah, exactly. So they're making money off of it. And apparently Disney has found a loophole so maybe you can talk about this, to get some of the Disney owned IP, you know, the stuff that Disney's developed into their own parks. So now you're going to have Marvel in both. When you go to Orlando, you're going to have it in Islands of Adventure and in some of the parks, or at least one of the parks at Disney World too.
Yeah, it's got me going a lot of different directions. So let me go back to you were talking about the type of land that you go into there at Superhero Island or Marvel Superhero Island. And it's, I grew up in California going to the Six Flags theme park there, and they had a license deal with a Warner Brother, which brought in Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. And so we had kind of a Gotham, metropolis kind of area there that was kind of fun, and you could go and kind of feel like you were in the comics. Didn't really feel like you were in the movies, but you definitely felt like you were in the comics, and had a really great Batman attraction and a Superman attraction. Here in Texas, we have a Superman roller coaster that's pretty great, and so we did have that kind of comic book world, and so it's interesting that the board at Disney, like we were mentioning earlier, were saying that comic books don't really align with Disney when if you just look at like what Six Flags was doing, like they couldn't like make a good themed land to save their lives, but getting a deal with Warner Brother allowed them to bring this comic book world over to the theme park world, which is, I mean, if that's not Disney's brand, Disney's at Disney's heart, the movies are really at the core of everything, but theme parks are a big chunk of the business, and for many years it was what was sustaining the business when the movies weren't making any money. And so when Iger got the board to finally approve a purchase of Marvel, it was just such a beautiful marriage, I think. And I did some research. If you'll forgive me, I want to go to screen share here and show you. I was curious about, they bought, you mentioned earlier, Sue, they bought Star Wars. They actually bought Marvel first. They bought Marvel in 2009, 2010. It was right at the end of 2009. And I think it finalized 2010 when they bought Marvel. It was right when Iron Man was coming out, the Incredible Hulk. And then all of that stuff switched over to Disney because they'd already created Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel cinematic arm of the Marvel company was actually being operated by the Marvel Corporation. And then Disney bought them, and the whole thing kind of came under the Disney umbrella. And but they didn't buy Marvel. They didn't buy Star Wars until 2012. But so it was 2-3 years later. But almost immediately after they bought Star Wars, it was, we're going to build a Star Wars land, right? Because Star Wars had already had 6 movies, and it had television specials, it had cartoons, it had Ewok movies, it had all this stuff. It had toys and merch. It was a perfect, and it had billions of dollars behind it, right? In earning. They spent billions of it because it had this value. I mean, they spent almost as much on Marvel as they did on Lucasfilm, but they immediately saw you already had theme park rides, right? You had Star Tours, plus you had, the live action with the kids, the Jedi Temple stuff. So they had already put that stuff, baked it into the theme parks anyway. So it's a no-brainer. Let's build a whole land. Anybody wants a Star Wars land to live out their adventures in the movies, right? It makes perfect sense. But here was Six Flags and here was Warner Brothers and DC doing the same thing. And I had to think that when they had Marvel, they were thinking, yeah, we got something here, but let's put the movies out and see what happens. So this brings me to what I want to screen share. And I found this really fascinating. So before I share it, I'm going to ask you, what do you think makes more money, Star Wars or Marvel?
Oh, wow. Well, there's more Marvel movies, but Star has been around longer. Do you mean like every year what makes more money, or do you mean like over total what makes more money? Oh, cumulative. Look at that.
And look at the
wow,
short
look at that
time
curve.
frame. Yeah. And look at Star Wars, there's these big gaps where there's, then the prequels come out and then nothing, then they sell to Disney, then you've got this kind of arcing curve there.
Holy cow. Look at those numbers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? And so of course they've got to be sitting around going, I think Marvel deserves its own land, right? So what does that look like, and where do we stick it, right? And they obviously can't put one in Florida right now, so they've got 3 going in. Can we switch to talking about that really quick, because I think that's really interesting about what's about to come, and the fact that it's not just one coming to Disneyland. There's one coming to France, and there's one coming, I want to say, in Hong Kong. Do you know anything about those?
Are we talking about the different Avengers campus sort of lands?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be the same at all the parks, right? I think it's going to be a little bit different concept at each one.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's different characters, different Marvel characters, different attractions, different restaurants, different shops, different. Yeah, so it'll be like Tony Stark has maybe the one campus he hangs out, or
Right.
But then they're going to have, if we're fighting the baddies in Hong Kong, or we're fighting the baddies in Paris, we need to have our different headquarters, our different home bases for those different parts of the world. And so, yeah, it's going to be, I think they could totally do that. And I think Marvel, as we just saw the numbers back up, the validity that there is a consumer base that has money, that wants these experiences. They want to live the comics. They want to be a superhero. They want to hang out with these characters and have these experiences just like they do in Star Wars. I think Disney's really got a gold mine that they're sitting on, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it.
So do you want to let's talk about what's actually coming to this, because this isn't just like a new ride. This is a whole new land. So there's the one thing that was there before is the Mission Breakout, which is the updated version of the Tower of Terror with the Guardians of the Galaxy theming. It is one of my favorite rides anywhere. It is super
a ton of fun. Yeah, it is not for the weak at heart.
No, it's a thrill ride.
I like Tower of Terror, and I get a thrill out of it. When I rode Mission Breakout, I was broken when I got off. It really throws you around. It is more exciting than Tower of Terror, in my opinion. And I loved the interactive component of the characters from the Guardians of the Galaxy, as they go through whatever, the breakout. Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. And, I'm excited about this, to go to this now, because as we talked about before, during the pandemic, that's when I watched the Marvel movies. I didn't have that background. I had seen a couple before, but now I've seen all of them. So I have a more of an appreciation for, the theming here, and certainly the characters and all that stuff. So let's see. Okay, so the big new ride is the Web Slingers ride, which is Spider-Man themed. It sounds really cool.
Yeah, which is interesting because there's already, we talked earlier about there being a Spider-Man attraction at Universal. So now we're going to have a Spider-Man attraction in a Disney park. And so it makes me think that the Imagineers have got to be going. I know that the Spider-Man attraction is like 20 years old at Universal, but they're going, this has got to be better, right?
Exactly.
What does it make you think of when you think about the description of it?
I have seen some concept art for it, back like a year ago. And it looks really fun because it's like interactive, I think. I believe that you like throw webs to try to catch these spider bots or whatever.
Yeah, it's so web. Let's see if it has it on here. The web workshop. It actually stands for something. It's the create
Right.
that the web organization creates like Batman style utility built tools for people to have superhero abilities. And so it's like Iron Man, right? Iron Man's suit. He's not a superhero, but his suit makes him a superhero, right?
Okay,
and
right.
so web creates weapons and tools and and gadgets for normal people like you and me to be able to do this. So they have like a web vehicle that you get in, and you're going to test it. It's the open house. You go into the web building, and they're going, welcome to our open house. We're going to put you in this thing, and you're going to get to experience the web products in the safety of one of our little devices. And so and I think it's even like it might even be trackless or something, but it's almost like a trackless. To me, it sounds like a trackless Toy Story Mania, where you have to catch these robotic spiders, right, with webs, right? You're catching them, and you capture them, and you bring them into your pod. But something goes wrong, right? Because it has to, right? Because where's the thrill if you're just sitting there shooting things? And so it sounds like a great ride. It sounds like a ton of fun. Of course, Spider-Man, I'm sure, comes to your rescue in the end. Tom Holland's probably going to voice the actor, right. And then in 10 years they'll reboot the whole thing, and whatever new Spider-Man actor is doing it then.
Yeah,
after Disney's bought Comcast and Sony, finally owns all of the Star Wars universe, or the MCU universe. Yeah.
Yeah, so this sounds really fun. And you see right in the description, it says no height restrictions. I think what they were trying to do was balance the fact that the only Marvel ride that they had was a thrill ride that is not for everyone. So if this is similar to like the Toy Story Mania ride, like everybody loves that ride. Everybody can ride it unless you're super sensitive to a little bit of spinning. Like I think that this is probably going to be similar, which will make it really popular. I mean, if you're opening a new land, you want a ride that everybody feels like they can ride. I think that's kind of a mistake that they made with the Galaxy's Edge, is they put the Millennium Falcon right in there, and it's a simulator, and a lot of people don't like that. Right. So this is really smart because it appeals to the younger kids, the grandmas, everybody. And I think it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, they really face an interesting challenge. How do you create these dynamic film-themed lands without having a spinner in the middle of it, right? I mean, like without having a kiddie ride, some carnival or circus, right? That they want to have these very expensive, very involved and complex scenarios, but you need the whole family. And so, of course, they're going to lean heavily on screens. They're going to lean heavily on ride vehicles that we're going to ride in. But you're right. I mean, the only other attraction they have there is really pretty intense. So it makes sense that they would have something that's a little bit more family friendly. Although I think chasing robotic spiders in and of itself is probably going to scare some people away.
Yeah, that's true. There will be some people. I can't wait to see this. I am super excited that this is on my coast. It really does bring like a whole new thing. It brings these parks between this and Galaxy's Edge just to a whole new level.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so what else do we got coming?
Well, I think the Avengers headquarters is pretty cool. It has a Quinjet on top of it. It sounds like the people involved are just super excited about that.
Yeah. From what I've read, this is not going to be part of the June 4th opening. That Avengers headquarters will not be open until phase 3. And that might be as late as 2024 before that even happens. Right. Because
the exterior is built though, right? Like I think you're going to be able to see it, but it looks like it's kind of a show. Is that your take on it?
Well, it's two things. There is going to be, I think initially it's going to have, like a meet and greet component at the front, but it's eventually supposed to be an attraction.
Okay.
That's everything I've read has said that Avengers headquarters is going to be it's really going to be the main, it's going to be the Rise of the Resistance for
cool.
Avengers campus. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. So yeah, so my understanding is the outside's built so like you can see the Quinjet and all that stuff walking around, but it sounds like you can't go inside.
Yeah, they'll probably they may do the meet and greet out in front. They may do it right inside.
Yeah.
There's sometimes they use like if they have like a large queuing area, they'll turn that into a meet and greet area.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
cool. And so I guess that at the other parks, that's one of those things that will be consistent is there'll be some kind of a headquarters building, but it won't be exactly the same at each place.
Exactly. I understand that as well. And it'll probably be the same attraction or variations on the same attraction.
Right.
It'd be cool if it was different. If it was, if there are 3 different versions of Rise of the Resistance, I would be jetting off all over the world, right?
Hey, by the way, speaking of Rise of the Resistance, one of the things that is another reason this makes me happy is that it's going to help balance the crowds between, it'll get people out of line from Rise of the Resistance because they're going to want to come over here, which means more time in that for me.
Right. More time in Rise of the Resistance or Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
So what do we know about the ancient sanctum? Have you looked up anything on this?
Not much. It sounds very mysterious, as it should be, I guess.
Mysterious ancient sanctum. Yeah. And I think it's kind of, from what I read, it kind of reads like a meet and greet. It might be a show, Encounter the Master of the Mystic Arts. So you're going to meet, Doctor Strange, an ancient site hidden for centuries. And so there's going to be, some fun stuff going on over there. So, I mean, I'm not that read up on it. I haven't heard anybody talking about it. So I'd be curious to see what it is, but they've got it built here as, heroic encounters. So it's probably going to be more of a meet and greet with Doctor Strange. It may be an expansion pad or something that's coming down the road.
Could be. It looks really cool. Looks really detailed. Another thing it says on there is it's especially cool to see it at night. It looks like all the pictures. Have you noticed basically all the pictures on here are taken at night?
Or dusk, yeah.
So I think this is
look at that.
Yeah, and the Guardians of the Galaxy ride always look really cool at night. So I think that this is one of those things that you're probably going to want to rope drop it so you can get on, the Spider-Man ride before the day gets going too much. But come back at night, and much like Cars Land, which is right there, it's the same kind of thing. It's so cool at night. So they want people to stay in that park, all day. Yeah. And this is going to be another reason to be there at night, I think.
Yeah, I can tell already that the next time I go to Disneyland, it's going to be a full day at California Adventure.
I know, totally.
I'm going to need to update my strategy on how to get around.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that later in the summer or something.
Yeah. All right, so here's one of my favorite topics, and that's food. And we have the Pym Test Kitchen. If you're familiar with Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know that Hank Pym is the Michael Douglas character who originally was the original Ant-Man and invented the serum that makes him shrink and grow. And I don't know why I'm blanking on what it's called, but the Pym particle.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is. I knew it's in there somewhere. It's buried deep down in there, but there's tons of useless comic book knowledge just buried on top of other comic book knowledge. But look at this chicken sandwich or whatever this is. It's like a chicken fried chicken with like a bun on it. It's
the tiniest bun ever, or else the biggest. Well, I'm looking at the tater tots for scale, and that is a tiny bun.
It's a tiny bun. Yeah. Well, they're having some fun with the food proportions, right? Because
that must be it.
It's Ant-Man, right? So some things are gonna be real big. I just hope that the milkshakes are gargantuan. That'll make me really happy.
It makes me a little nervous to go into the Pym Test Kitchen and eat anything. But if you click on that, does it have any more details?
Well, let's find out.
I didn't look that deeply into the food thing.
Coming soon, refuel with Ant-Man and the Wasp, size-defying fare at this epic eatery at Adventures Campus. Coming June 4th. And so
Oh.
there's a picture of the outside and hero style dining. And on an urgent mission to fight hunger, head to Penn Test Kitchen for phenomenal food at unusual scales, utilizing the revolutionary shrink and grow technology of Pym particles. Ant-Man and the Wasp will lead a team of research chefs as they pioneer a menu packed with inventive-sized entrees, tiny treats, and shareable bites that provide the perfect power-up. Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah. Oh, it says there's ongoing experiments inside there. Gigantic soda cans, humongous condiment bottles, and massive cell phones recycled into menu boards. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm going to have to make time for that.
Yeah.
That's great. And of course, we've got this Web Shooters looks like maybe a Droid Depot kind of thing where you can make, from what I understood, the Worldwide Engineering Brigade. That's what WEB stands for, by the way.
Okay.
And so you'll be able to make your own little toys, gadgets, robots, that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's click on it, see what it says. Because
you know what I bet that is? I bet that's a gift shop that you exit the Spider-Man ride through.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
You can make the little spider bots. That sounds really fun.
And then we've got the Collector's Warehouse, which again, isn't that where you exit Mission Breakout right now?
Probably.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
And where this is, like, for anybody that's kind of wondering, like, where did they build this? If you've been to California Adventure at all in the last, since it opened almost, there used to be a part of the park that was a land called the Bugs Land. It's themed after a Bug's life. It's kind of near the Cars Land, and it's been gone for at least 5 years because they knew that they were going to be building this. But it was there for years and years. It was kind of a kiddies, for little kids. And so they took that out, and that's where this is. So it's not like they expanded the theme park. They just put this in a place where something else originally was.
So it says Bugs Land on there, but here's Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. So this area right in here is where it's all going in. And when I was there, summer of 2019, it was almost done, and they had the walls up, but you could see the buildings. You could see the signs on the outsides of the buildings. So, I mean, it's been ready to go. They were working on it that summer, so I'm sure it was ready to go. Early 2020, it was probably ready, but in fact, if you watched when Disney Plus came out, they did the thing about the Imagineering story, but in like episode 6, one of the last ones, they were talking about, what we're working on right now that you haven't seen yet, but we're working on it right now. They talk about Avengers Campus, and they talk about the Spider-Man, they're calling it a stunt-otronic instead of an audio animatronic. Okay. And so they've created these mannequins. I don't know. What are the puppets that are made of wood and you can control their own?
Oh,
like a marionette.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's a full size, and they're gonna put a Spider-Man costume on it, and they can launch it and make it look like Spider-Man doing flips through the airs or little stunt maneuvers through the airs. And he's just gonna fling over the buildings, like he's been swinging on a web and let go. So he's going to fly out and then catch another web on the other side or whatever. It's going to be, I don't know how they're doing it, but there's video of it. Actually, I have videos saved here somewhere. Let's see if I can find it.
Is that in the ride, or is that in the just outside in the land that he's flying around?
I think it's outside in the land, but it could be in the ride. So here, let's see if
that would be so cool if you're just walking around and then Spider-Man's like flying over the building.
So here's an example. I don't know if you could see this video play at all.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is some of the stuff that he's going to be doing. I found this video online. I mean, look at that. He they can program him to release, to let go. I mean, that's not a person. That's a robot doing all these stunts.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting stuff going on here. I don't even know what this is.
Joey, you should put that link in the comments. That is fascinating.
I mean, he did like a half twist with a gainer there. I mean, here's Boston Dynamics. I guess they were the ones working with him.
Wow, that is super cool.
So there's some pretty neat stuff going on there. Go watch that episode of Imagineering Story, because they talk a little bit about that and they show some of the things. It's just enough to whet your appetite about what's going on here. But that's kind of neat. That's not even a full person. Here's the one at Disney that they show. Look how he goes up and does a hero pose with his
right. All right. Oh my gosh, that is super cool. It's amazing. Every time something new like this opens, it's just like, this is so cool. Like, how could it ever get any better or different than this? And it's like, but wait to see what they're doing next, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, right, so that's coming to California, opening June 4th. It blows my mind. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun Marvel stuff coming. And I was shocked when I was looking at Disney World how the only thing that's there is a shop at Disney Springs right now. Of course, we've got Cosmic Rewind coming, but that's it. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. The thing about, so Cosmic Rewind is coming to Epcot, and it's going to be in what used to be called Future World side of the park, but it's got a new name. I can't remember. But anyway, kind of by Spaceship Earth.
Yeah, it is getting, it's, what are they calling Future World? It is going to get a new name, isn't it? But yeah. I had it pulled up here so we could look at it. This is sort of the Google Earth view of it. And, that here's the old Universe of Energy building. Then there's this chute that the ride's going to go down, and then you're going to have the whole roller coaster in here. This really doesn't give you, these are massive, massive buildings. And so I could be wrong, but I think I remember hearing that this is going to be one of the longest roller coasters also, like the longest duration.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. The building is huge, because you could be standing in Japan across the lake over there in World Showcase and look across, and it's crazy how big it is compared to everything else. But yeah, so that's gonna be cool, because the roller coaster with screens is gonna be a lot like what you get in the Harry Potter rides at Universal, which are always really entertaining and fun, and they're gonna have the original characters and stuff in there, which is part of their issue, is they have to get that shot during COVID. So that is still delayed. That doesn't have an opening date, and I hope it's 2022, but I know it's not going to be this year. I'm certain of that.
Yeah, they pushed back Ratatouille pretty far. I think they're going to be pushing back the rest of the big openings like Cosmic Rewind. And they have ride vehicles on the track. We know that. And we know that they've tested it with employees. I know that as much, but I don't know, how much more they've got to do on it. And according to Jim and Len, it is a super complex attraction that is going to take a long time before they finally get it ready. And knowing Disney, it's going to be ready long before they make an announcement to open it up to the public. So when they finally do make an announcement, it'll probably be ready at that point. They're just wanting to make sure that the date they pick is strategic enough to drive, large audiences, or it's going to be a time when they're already anticipating large audiences. So it makes sense. It validates economically, to have it open during that time. So, yeah.
Yeah. Epcot's got their big anniversary in 2022. Is that right?
Yes. It's October of 2022. So it'll probably be opening that summer. So it'll continue to drive attendance through that. Yeah.
I bet they'll make it part of that. So that's coming, but it's not like a whole campus. And I hope they don't turn that end of that park into an Avengers campus. That would seem kind of weird to me. That it's already weird that they're bringing that IP into Epcot, but they had the space for it there, so that's where it is. Yeah. But that's exciting. That's all we know that's coming to Orlando.
Well, if you were to guess where they would put an Avengers campus in Orlando, if the opportunity ever came, where do you think they would put it?
Well, Hollywood Studios to me would be the most realistic, like the smartest place. It's about movies there.
Right. Well, I think it was in Iger's book where he was talking about the next phase of the theme parks in Florida was that, like, like Star Wars and Pixar would be at Hollywood Studios, and Marvel. I think Marvel is really going to make I think Epcot is really going to, even though we love the old Epcot, and even though we want Epcot to remain pure, I think that it's going to eventually be, you're going to have Marvel on one side of Future World. Future World East is going to be the new Marvel Land, and then Future World West is going to be some other IP that, that they probably, like Indiana Jones. I don't know, something. It's going to be something that's going to go in there. In fact, just if I go back to that list, look at all of these IP. These are film. What are they called? Franchises. So these are film franchises. Disney owns.
Oh, I can't see it though. You didn't share your screen.
Oh, I didn't share my screen. Oh yeah, I'm not screen sharing. Let me do that really quick because I want to show you this before I go. So this is that list I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
Look at the list of film franchises ranked from most profitable to least profitable. I mean, you got Indiana Jones, you've got James Bond, you got Cheech and Chong in here. I mean, there's so much stuff in here. Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen. Who's to say they're not going to bring that kind of stuff back, right? I mean, there's a lot of Minions, Scooby Doo. I mean, not a lot of these are Disney, but you'd be surprised how many of them are Fox. And so, it'll be interesting to see. And I didn't even scroll down a fifth of the way. I mean, here, I'm just going to scroll quickly down so you can kind of just get a gist of how many franchises, IPs, film properties that Disney now owns that they can convert into entire lands if those properties start to make enough money. So it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. It's exciting. It's cool to see what they've done with Marvel so far. And I'm excited for, what's coming. But the thing is, like, all this new stuff is great just for now because we're waiting for it as it is. I'm not there right now, so I'm not missing out yet. But boy, this summer I want to go see it.
Well, I hope you get to, and I hope everything starts to calm down COVID-wise with the vaccine and everybody's.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that chat that we had talking about Marvel, and hoping it's got you excited to explore some of the places that you can go and also have fun kind of living that superhero life. Again, show notes for this episode are at goinformed.net/68. And you can watch the video there too if you want to see what we look like. And there's actually a little bit more of the discussion that I edited out for the podcast. So, and again, catch us Tuesday mornings, 11 Pacific, or you can watch the recording of our chats anytime you want over on the Facebook page. Thanks again for listening, guys, and I'll catch you next time.